Today we're trotting down the wheat to get to the tares. Sad to say. Today we're in a position of perplexity. No way out of the mess we've created, believe it or not. What is happening is not the answer. The world's approach is solving it. They really have no answer. Listen to the news. Listen to the left and right of this narrow road. The response I get is they're trotting down the wheat to get to the tares. It's present evil, thinking to doing another evil. Imagine that. Many of our governors are refusing to take in the thousands of refugees coming from the Middle East. Can you blame them? They admit that this war is against an ideology. How does one fight an ideology that we are told to embrace by our very president who refuses to call a spade, Islamic terrorists? We, as Christians, are considered terrorists by our very own government. They appear to have no problem doing this. Are there messed up Christians that misrepresent Christianity? Sure. Yet in our case, they see all Christians as terrorists. But when it comes to Islam, they shy away. It doesn't fit their agenda. It makes you wonder, what is their agenda? Conspiracies abound. Yet, if you can see through all that is going on, you can't say that Scripture hasn't predicted this. Race against race, and culture against culture, and creed against creed. Only God Himself could correct all of this, and He will. But humanity, to a large degree, will not let Him. Thinking they are gods and don't need Him. They will fix their mess themselves in time. Sure. I said that in sarcasm. We are seeing evidence that the Scripture stands true. Men will wax worse and worse, deceiving and being deceived. Today you're damned if you do and damned if you don't. Do we embrace or do we refrain from embracing? Apart from the wisdom, the only God who expressed this thought in Ecclesiastes, telling us that there is a time to embrace, as we have done in our past history of this nation. Yet today, with our current self-created situation, having to say, this is not a time to embrace. I rest my case. November 14th, 2015. I sat the other night watching the news on the terrorist attack playing out in Paris. I continued this morning with the latest updates to it all. While being commanded, as I have shared to all of you, those I communicate to, I asked our Father, what's happening? The first reply was, it now begins. With some understanding of this, I asked further and got this response. You can't fight for people who won't fight for themselves. Then the two thoughts were put together. And so it begins. The bringing of a new world religion. You're being goaded into war to fight for people who won't fight for themselves and those with other agendas. They drop their weapons and run, leaving you to fight for them. They leave their country to only ruin yours, seeking to change what has worked for you over the years to put into its place what wasn't working in their own world. In time, many will become weary of all the religious debates over the Bible, the Quran, and all the other religious holy books, to the point that they, the world governments, convincing their people, will think to ban all religious books and in their place come up with a new book that they feel would unite all under a new idea of God, replacing the Hebrew, Christian, or Muslim God and many of the Eastern gods with one called by many names found in your religious book. I have warned all willing to hear, and so it begins to unfold. Something that has always been there, now being manifested. I have manifested throughout the history of your world. My agenda, God's agenda. One originally decreed it will be no matter the outcome of their agendas. You know what's happening because, like others, you have asked. Were you expecting something different? It is not a conspiracy, as some might think. It is as I've said it would be. Let it all play out. It doesn't concern you and all who have asked. I'm not fighting for this world and this kingdom. I have. I've been in Vietnam. I fought for this nation. I fought for this world. But I began to realize, after losing my religion after Vietnam, I began to realize that the whole world is in foreclosure. It's decided that it didn't want God, that it could solve its own problems. And God has withdrew His hand. allowing things to play out the way it's playing out, seeing the outcome of our little utopian dream ideas of how we're going to solve our problems independent from a God. And all the debates of whose God is king of all the gods. Oh, yeah, I have so much more I put out on YouTube that expresses this in greater depth. But then I'm just one among millions of opinions and ideas of who God is and who we are and what's going on in this world. So I rest my case. You decide. Apart from Him, we know nothing. IMO, in my opinions. We have all heard this expression, in my opinion, and how it's used in chat rooms, texting over the web, and cell phones today. The issue I would like to discuss is, does it come down to my opinion? If it does, then whose opinion is right and whose is wrong? In other words, a famous line from Pollock, what is the truth? We hear this, well, that's only your opinion. A remark made by those who apparently disagree with you, having their opinion, thinking theirs is correct and yours is wrong. What if I told you that both are wrong? Because it doesn't come down to my opinion or theirs. Would you understand where I'm coming from? Well, this is where this article or video is going. I'll start with what Jesus Christ, the Son of God, in the mode of a Son of Man, once said. I have many things to say and judge of you, but the one who sent me is true. Now you might get different opinions of what Jesus might have meant saying this to the Pharisees that day. That this statement speaks for itself. Don't interject your opinion. Jesus' use of I is plain enough. Jesus, as those around him perceived him, Jesus the son of Mary, Joseph the carpenter. Of course, beyond my opinion, Scripture clearly brings out that Joseph wasn't his natural father. He was a virgin born. Now you can reject this or you can go with your opinion, but you wouldn't get an argument from me with my opinion on the matter of his being virgin born. I don't have one. Now understand, I might have had my opinion once, but somewheres I personally came to understand that my opinion or your opinion doesn't really matter. I settle for God's opinion, who would be the only one sufficient enough to have the amount of information on the matter to know what he's talking about. All of us aren't sufficient enough to evaluate anything that you hear all around you and being broadcast over TV and the web. So, accepting all-sufficient God, an all-sufficient God, I believe Jesus was virgin born. And it's not just my opinion. Many others have done the same, and it isn't just their opinion either. Well, moving on with this statement of Jesus, the Son of Man. He said that he had many things to say and judge of those before him, the Pharisees, yet didn't share his personal opinions of them. Yet later you hear Jesus blasting them with his words and judgments. Was he caught in a contradiction? No. Reading on, he gives the source of his words and judgment, which were not his. The one who sent one is true. Now, this day and age, you look at the YouTube and you look at the web, and like I said, I was talking about being on a narrow road. You look to the left, you see the world's opinion. And then you look to the right, you see the secular and the religious opinion. And then you get into the politicians, you get the conservatives against the liberals, and it goes left and right. And you see bombs going off overhead, each one bombing the other, each one judging the other left and right. And you sit there and you puzzle. Who do you believe? Who do you join? How about you don't join none of them? Let every man be a liar, let God be true. I mean, if you can't get a hold of a God that can determine who's right and who's wrong, or you can go to the tree of the knowledge of good and evil, and you can pick and choose, and you decide who's right, who's wrong, based on your particular bias, your race, cultures, and your creed. You can do that, which was forbidden not to do that. We were to be dependent and living by every word that proceeds out of the mouth of God day by day. Yet with this world today, you got so many people claiming that. That's why you wonder who's hearing from God, who isn't hearing from God. You don't worry about it. Let each find out for themselves. I'm giving out what is considered my opinion among many millions of others' opinion on current event in the news. Do I dare put this out? I put it out there. You decide. Take it for what it's worth. I mean, is it of any value, or is it just another opinion of Paul Woodward? A nameless face and a nameless person having no credentials coming at you. I don't have no credentials. I lost those credentials years ago. So I'm just putting out these videos now, just putting out this new series I'm putting out here. It's called Current Events, Spiritual Insights off Current Events. So take it for what it's worth. I'll be putting them out there from time to time, and it's just going to be one voice in the wilderness of many other voices. So God bless you.